Welcome in, hip hop heads. My name is Plural Bets, and on this channel, I like to do hip hop album reviews. I take an album, I give a brief breakdown of each song, and then rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. Remember that music is subjective, and just because I'm liking something doesn't mean that you have to feel the exact same way. In this episode, I am traveling back in time to 2003 to listen to Aesop Rock's Bazooka Tooth. Not to be confused with ASAP Rocky, Aesop Rock is an underground legend. Bazooka Tooth happens to be Aesop's fourth studio album, released through a Manhattan-based label, Def Jux, or Def Jux for short. Every feature that he has on this was signed to Def Jux at the time of this release. And it's also to note that Aesop did most of the production himself, which was a first for him at this time. He had dropped a few albums before this, but Bazooka Tooth was what really got him to start gaining traction in the music scene. A remix of one of these songs actually made it onto Tony Hawk's Underground 2, where I originally heard of him. And I've heard a few of his tracks over the years, but I'm not a full fan of his collection, but I am going to break down what marked his big break. So without further ado, here's the review. The title track, Bazooka Tooth, I gotta break this one down into two halves. The intro is fairly smooth, but the first half just does not hit it all to me. The production feels off, and his flow comes off clunky. At around 114, there is a beat switch, and his flow does start to get better after that, and it is fairly solid. But I'm not sure if he says anything that really blew my mind, though. Overall, because the first half drags it down, I'm gonna give it a hard 5. It could have been higher if it was better from the jump. Next up, NY Electric and the Hunter interlude. The beat on this one hits. It's got an Arabic flavored lead that gives it a unique vibe. Aesop's first verse is dope. I got a kick out of him naming dogs after shitty rap artists. The hook is pretty smooth. It had that catchy, I'ma thread the needle, da 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 da, that I thought was actually pretty dope. His second verse dips a bit. It's just not as strong as the first. And I gotta say that the outro is interesting, but I can't pinpoint where it's from, so if anybody can let me know in the comments, that'd be great. Overall, this track works, and I'm gonna give it a hard 8. Track 3 is easy. The first verse is solid. His cadence is a little up and down, but for the most part, it works. The hook is pretty dope, and honestly, it's my favorite part. The second verse is decent, with a standout bar that was landed on Cloud 8 because my pogo stick. It was pretty clever. Overall, this one lands at a soft 6. Just a little bit above average, but nothing that really blew me away. Track 4 is No Jumper Cables. This was the first single of the album. It also happens to be the original track of what was put on Underground 2, which is where a lot of people heard it first. And I gotta be honest, the album original version just does not hit like the remix. So, nostalgia aside, I gotta give this a hard 4. Skip this one and head over and listen to the remix instead. Track 5 is Limelighters and the Flunkadelic interlude featuring Camp Lo. The beat is a low-key banger, and I happen to like what they did with the back and forth between Aesop and Camp Lo. Aesop actually holds his own in his first verse, but I do have to say that the better parts came from Camp Lo. The hook is okay, nothing special about it though. And in the second verse, they go back and forth again, where Aesop takes the better of a lackluster verse. The third verse is just average, and the outro is interesting, but it's not enough to save the song. Overall, I'm going to give this a hard 5. Some decent parts, but just didn't hit right. Next up, track 6, Super Fluke. Honestly, the beat is a little lackluster here. Aesop starts his verse strong, but it quickly falls off after the opening bars. And the hook didn't really hit right either. But the second verse does have some standout lyrical moments. And then the third verse is just a little bit up and down. If I had to say it, just a little bit below average, actually. Overall, this track just doesn't land for me. The second verse is a highlight, but it can't really save the song. So I'm going to give Super Fluke a soft 3. Track 7, Cook It Up, featuring Party Fun Action Committee. I love the funky lead on the beat. It's got that vibe that just makes the song feel fun. Aesop's verse starts off okay, and it does have a few solid moments, but it's just not really all that strong. The highlight for me is the singing at the end by PFAC, which actually smooths the track out to give it some flavor. Overall, I'm going to give this a hard 6, mostly because of the beat and the ending. Before we keep going, quick shout out to today's sponsor, W Energy. It's the cleaner, healthier, and more affordable energy solution. No junk, no fillers, just what your body needs. Plus, it has something called Neurofactor that is supposed to increase your BDNF by 143% possibly. And did I mention the price? Mind blowing at only $1.33 per drink. And it's even better if you use my code SUSTREET at checkout. Honestly, it's the energy brand of the future. So me, Plural Bets, and Sioux Street Music put their stamp on W Energy. And now, back to the review. Track 8, Freeze. This is the second and final single/video package that they did for this album. I gotta say that the beat is easily the best part of the track. It's catchy and it makes your head nod. Aesop's first verse was a bit lackluster. He did have some few solid moments, but they were few and far between. I liked the hook. It was pretty smooth and it kept the energy going. The second verse is okay, but again, it does have that up and down cadence that brings the track down a little bit. Overall, the hook and the beat save it from being a total skip, so I'm going to give Freeze a hard 5. Next up is We're Famous featuring LP. LP takes the first verse, and it's pretty dope. He brings some sharp, gritty energy to the track. And the second half is where the track really shines. Aesop is exposing some industry moves that I enjoyed, really. Both verses were solid, and the production supports them both very well. I like LP better in the first half, but Aesop does do his thing in the second. I'm giving We're Famous a hard 7. Track 10 is Babies with Guns. The beat for this is smooth, and I happen to love the horns on this. But the hook didn't hit for me, and it kind of fell flat, to be honest. Aesop's first verse does start off a little bit lackluster, but he does pick it up in the second half, and I thought that part was pretty smooth. And it's more the same in the second verse. His first few bars of it were actually pretty solid, but he falls off quickly after that. Though the last few bars do kind of hit as well. The outro freestyle was actually pretty dope too, but it's not enough to save the track. Overall, I'm giving this one a soft 3. It's a skip for me. Track 11 is the greatest Pac-Man victory in history. The beat feels pretty lackluster, and Aesop didn't do anything to quell that. He does have a couple of smooth moments at the very beginning and at the very end, but it doesn't do much to save it. Overall, this one doesn't really land for me, so I'm going to give it a hard 2. Track 12 is Frijoles. This one actually works pretty well. The beat fits Aesop's style perfectly, and it turns out to be a fairly solid track. And I do have to say that I didn't really notice any weak spots in his flow either. This track feels consistent from start to finish. Overall, this feels like his lane, and I'm giving Frijoles a hard 6. Track 13 is 1135 and the Ketamine USA interlude, featuring Mr. Liff. The hook for this is fairly smooth, and it does set up the story well. In the first verse, Mr. Liff and Aesop do a back and forth of a storytelling that was actually pretty smooth, and I enjoyed it heavily. After the hook again, there's a beat switch, and it kind of feels like a completely different song after this. It is decent, but it's just not as strong as the first half. I gotta say that this track works for me. It's engaging and fun to listen to. I gotta give it a hard 7. Track 14 is Kill the Messenger. I gotta say that the hook is smooth, but the rest of the track just doesn't really land. Aesop's first verse is okay, but he does take some shots at the Wu-Tang Clan that I didn't like. Wu-Tang forever, baby. The second verse continues the diss vibe, and to me it just fell flat. I'm a Wu-Tang man forever, so it just didn't hit to me. Overall, this one misses the mark for me, so I'm giving it a hard 4. The final track, Mars Attacks. Aesop is snapping in his verse, some really strong bars, and it's fairly lyrical as well. The interlude in the middle is fairly smooth, and it does keep the vibe interesting. But his second verse doesn't hit hard at all. The fast-paced cadence that he uses makes his lyricism fall flat. Overall, it's a mixed bag, so I'm going to give the last track a hard 5. So coming into this, I knew that Bazooka Tooth was going to be a hard listen for me, and for the most part, it really was. Aesop is underrated lyrically, no doubt, but his monotone delivery can make it fall flat at times. With that being said, the production on this album was definitely a highlight. Some tracks really stand out sonically, and the few highlights of the album were NY Electric and We're Famous. If you're a hip-hop head like me, then you have to have a take on this. So what was your favorite track of Bazooka Tooth? Or let me know your overall take in the comments. If you made it this far, be sure to hit that like button and then subscribe for more album reviews just like this one. Until next time, friends, peace.